Today I'm going to talk about painting the Mars Viet Cong figures. Before I get into the figures, I want to talk about the paints. I've noticed online there's a lot of back and forth discussion on blogs about the quality of different paints and how well they stay on. This stuff, the Andrea color, sadly just does not stay on. They have a nice color range. They have a lot of different shades of khaki, but it just doesn't stay on. It rubs right off. The other colors I use are Tamiya and Gunza Sangyo and Testers, and they all stay on pretty good. The thing with them though is Tamiya has kind of a limited color range, and the Gunza colors, they seem mostly oriented toward armor and vehicles, because there's a lot of semi-gloss colors in their range. But Testers has some unusual colors. So on to the figures. I haven't really painted them up really good yet. But there is a moderate amount of excess plastic on these figures that has to be trimmed away. But I noticed on closer inspection there's some interesting details that the sculptor included in them. Like the female figure with the rifle. I assumed it would be a Mosin Nagant, but I don't think it is. I think it's, you know, now that I look it through the magnifying glass, I think it's supposed to be a Garand. Although it's really too small. I mean, it should be huge, because the Garand's a big rifle. But she has what looks like a Garand cartridge belt on, an American cartridge belt from World War II. So that was interesting. The rifle is bulky toward the end, like a Garand with a gas tube, you know. And this guy, the guy throwing the big grenade, I assumed this was just a folding stock AK, but it's not. It's a Vietnamese K-50 submachine gun. It was their cut down version of a Chinese PPSH. And when you look at it in the magnifying glass, you see that's exactly what it is. It's what threw me off at first. The magazine is too wide. But that was an interesting detail. The reference, I'm no expert on the VC and NVA. The reference guide I'm using is this book, and it has some pretty good illustrations in it. The VC, apparently there were two different kinds. There were the main force VC who wore uniforms and were pretty well equipped and organized, and then you had the local VC, who were the people in the black pajamas. They were less well equipped, less well trained, so forth. The color, you can see in these illustrations, the color during the Vietnam War was this kind of a greenish khaki. I used to see a few items of North Vietnamese stuff at militaria shows, and the color, their uniforms reminded me of old Boy Scout uniforms. That's what they looked like. And it was later that they started, I think, wearing this more of a jungle green kind of outfit. So the color, I looked for a good match for that color, and the best I've found is the Tester's French khaki. That is the closest thing to this greenish khaki color I could find. Most of the VC's web gear was Chinese made, and here's an example of it. And as you can see, it's this dark khaki color that fades very easily. This is a SKS bandolier somebody gave me, and this Tamiya khaki, it's a dark khaki. It's not what Americans call khaki, it's what the British call khaki. That's the color you want for Chinese web gear, because back then they weren't making it in that green color you see the later stuff in. It was all this dark khaki stuff. Some shade of khaki is what you want. As far as the figures go, they all look like they're the local VC, kind of the black pajama guys. Except for the guy with the RPD. He looks like he might be more the main force VC, because he's the only one that has the floppy, the VC bush hat, the North Vietnamese bush hat. So that was what the sculptor chose to represent. I'm still not getting those hats that two of these guys are wearing. I don't know, maybe it was supposed to be a Chinese hat, a PLA hat. I don't know. Anyway, I hope that's been of some help. I just ordered the Mars Marines, the Vietnam Marines, so I'm looking forward to getting those. So when I do, I'll make a video of them.